once upon a time in a world of magic, light, and darkness.
The air was thick with the stench of sulfur and smoke. The volcanic flatlands west of the Kapska Mountains, a desolate wasteland of lava pits and jagged black rock. The sky above was an eerie crimson, casting the land in a blood-red hue that flickered in the light of molten rivers running below. Wind trembled, not with fear, but with excitement. She could barely contain herself. This was it, her moment. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stood among the other young witches, lined up before the burning pit. The Witchmaster Nyzenra stood at the forefront, flanked by the stern-faced Razjana and the gaunt warlock Munu. Their presence alone was enough to make Wen feel as if she was on the precipice of greatness. Finally, she thought, my career begins tonight. Gava's warnings had been nothing but the anxious ramblings of an old, worn-out witch. Wen shook her head, suppressing a sneer. She had been chosen for this, before Natsui, before any of the other young witches who thought themselves more talented or more worthy. This was her initiation into the official ranks of the Order of the Darkness. Nothing could take that away from her now. The night sky swirled with power, the crimson clouds above seeming to respond to the gathering forces below. Form a line, two at a time, Nyzenra commanded, her voice a rasping whisper that cut through the thick air. The young witches obeyed immediately, stepping toward the edge of the pit in pairs. The lava bubbled beneath them, sending sparks into the air as Nyzenra, Razjana, and Munu began their chant in an ancient tongue. Their eyes shut in deep concentration, their bodies rigid as the words poured from their lips like the cursed wind itself. The chant grew louder, their voices vibrating with a force that made the ground beneath the witches tremble. The air grew hotter. Wen's skin prickled with the intensity of the heat, but she kept her composure. This was the sacred ritual, the revival that the Order had spoken of in hushed tones. She would be part of something legendary. Sparks leapt from the pit, and then the lava surged. The molten rock bubbled violently, as if something below was straining to be free. The chanting reached a fever pitch, and as the final words echoed through the volcanic flats, the pit erupted. A flame burst forth high into the sky, and from it, a grotesque figure began to emerge. A long, bony arm clawed its way from the lava, followed by a gaunt face adorned with horns and a tongue that lolled from its gaping mouth. Its skin was leathery and charred, hanging from its frame like a cloak of death. Its emaciated body stretched into the night, claws scraping the earth as it pulled itself free. A low, breathless howl echoed from its gaping maw, growing louder with every second. Wen's heart raced, her excitement turning to a chill of unease, as the monstrosity's hollow eyes fixed on the witches before it. Nizrena's eyes snapped open, glowing red. She spoke again in the ancient tongue, and the creature hissed in response, the sound like fire devouring wood. Then, Nizrena motioned toward the line of witches. It begins. The beast moved faster than Wen thought possible, its long arms shooting out and grabbing the first two witches in its clawed hands. Their screams pierced the air as its burning skin seared their flesh, smoke rising from their bodies. And then, in one horrifying instant, the creature's mouth stretched impossibly wide, and it devoured them whole. Wen's blood froze. The witch's screams turned into terrified cries as chaos erupted. The creature continued its grisly feast, each bite sending blood and limbs scattering across the volcanic rock. No! This can't be happening! Wen's mind screamed. Gava was right. They were not here for glory. They were sacrifices. All of them. Panic spread through the witches, their terror rising as Munio and Razina drew ceremonial daggers from their robes. Without hesitation, they turned on the students, slashing throats and spilling more blood for the beast to consume. Wen's legs trembled, her mind whirling. I'm gonna die. They're all gonna kill us. The other witches ran, desperately scrambling to escape the horror unfolding around them, only to be cut down by their own mentors. Wen watched as bodies fell, one after another, and the creature devoured them with a hunger that seemed endless. In desperation, she reached for the small pink stone Gava had given her. It was her last hope. She clutched it in her hand, squeezing it tightly, and in an instant the world around her shifted. The sounds of screams and the monstrous roar dulled to a distant echo, as though she had been transported to some place between the present and another realm entirely. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her heart hammering against her chest, but no one noticed her anymore. She'd become invisible to them. The magic had worked. Wind's pulse pounded in her ears as she moved away from the carnage. She saw Munu pass by her, oblivious to her presence, his dagger slicing through the air to claim another victim. Blood sprayed across her face, but no one saw her. She was safe for now. She wanted to cry out, to scream, but she couldn't afford to make a sound. She watched as the last of the witches were cut down, their bodies fed to the growing beast. Her mind raced, panic clawing at her insides, but her feet carried her further from the pit. Then, just as she thought she might escape the nightmare, Nizrina's head snapped up. The Witchmaster's eyes widened, her mouth opening in a shriek of disbelief. Impossible. Light burst from the darkness, a dazzling white light that cut through the crimson haze like a blade. Wind shielded her eyes from the brilliance, her heart racing with newfound terror. Out of the light stepped a figure, a woman beautiful and powerful, her blonde hair glowing like gold in the searing brightness. She carried a staff, and from its tip radiated the blinding illumination that lit up the entire flatland. Moving past her was another figure, the Cassitan. The legendary warrior moved with blinding speed. Before Wen could even comprehend what was happening, Munu and Regina were dead, their bodies crumpling to the ground in slashed heaps. The beast roared in defiance, a sound that shook the earth itself, and Wen knew that this was her only chance. She turned and fled, running as fast as her legs could carry her, away from the horror, away from the light, away from the death that had surrounded her. And she ran faster than she ever had in her life. She didn't dare look back.
Try.